My husband Owen is a little too close with his parents, and they treat him the same way back. I'm not really sure what I should do about it. It's not like he likes them all that much. He just believes them too much. For some reason, what they say is law to him. I thought something was wrong before I got married to him, but that maybe things would get a little better once we got married. It didn't at all. If Owen ever has a problem, he never comes to me, but to his mother, Olivia. Even if I'm right next to him, he'll call his mother instead. It's making me a bit sad. Even just things like which groceries to buy, he'll ask his parents. Not sure if I should get this one or this one. Which do you think is better? It's something he can easily figure out on his own, or just ask me. But he always has Olivia choose for him. Olivia also seems to think Owen relies on her, and seems happy whenever he asks something of her. Isn't it a little annoying to have to talk to your parents every day? I asked Owen. Why would it be annoying? Mom and Dad are always happy to help, is how he'd answer. I'm a bit troubled by it, honestly. I'm not saying that he shouldn't contact his parents. It's just that Owen seems to be so focused on his parents that it worries me. I can imagine if we ever get into an argument, he'll go and call his mother about it, and I can't help but feel depressed. We got married about a year ago. In fact, it was only recently that we finally talked about going on our honeymoon. We've been living together since before we got married, and we registered our marriage when Owen was transferred to another city. For a while after that, Owen's work was very busy, so we hadn't been able to go on a vacation. I was really looking forward to going. But Owen let Olivia choose not only the location. He said, Mom and Dad are also going to go on vacation with us. That was taking things way too far. Owen had also said, Mom and Dad will pay for everything as well. Isn't it so nice we get to travel for free? I was annoyed at how clueless he was. That wasn't the issue here. I just wanted to enjoy my first trip in a long time, alone with my husband. But with Olivia there, I can't really relax. I really wanted him to tell her no. We both work, so paying for the trip wasn't really an issue. But we were talking about buying a house, and we need to save money for that. Of course, we've been saving, but Owen really wants to save the money up fast. I understand that's a good thing, but that doesn't mean we should bring his parents on our honeymoon. To be honest, I don't really want to go if Olivia is coming. It makes things complicated. I've told Owen about this, but he doesn't understand. Why don't you want to go? We're a couple now, and we're all family now. Isn't it disrespectful to my parents to reject them like that? They said we'd have fun if we went. Stop overthinking things, is what he said. In fact, Olivia and her husband Peter had said, I'm jealous you guys get to go on a trip. We haven't been able to go lately. You're right, but we already traveled as a couple a lot, they said, seemingly trying to invite themselves along. Owen not minding this at all. Then why don't you come along with us? It'd be more fun. Invited them just like that. I didn't know about it until after the fact. I wish Owen would understand how I feel. He doesn't seem to understand me at all. Olivia is also a bit weird, and was happy to have Owen invite them. That's a good idea. I'm looking forward to going, she said, seemingly ecstatic. For some reason, Owen was really proud to tell me this. He didn't even realize I was upset. I love Owen, and I married him. So I guess I'll just have to give in. I can't expect Owen's personality to change if his parents are like that. Well, since I'm taking time off from work, I'd like to enjoy myself as well. A few weeks later, we got home from our trip. In the end, Olivia and Peter did actually come along, with a look on their face like it was obvious they would. We met at the station and waited for the train to come. And during that time, they basically ignored my existence. They were only talking to Owen. Owen seemed to be really enjoying himself. I felt like I was the only one left out of the family vacation. From the beginning, I felt bad about things. If I knew things were going to be like this, it would have been better for the three of them to go without me. I knew I couldn't change Owen's mind, and I couldn't really tell Peter and Olivia not to come either. It was already decided they'd come along, so I had kind of given up. But our trip had only just begun, and things were already not looking good for the rest of it. Why did things have to go this way? During the trip, Owen and his parents also started to talk about living together. By the way, you guys should start looking for a house soon. If we're all going to live together, it should be one with a lot of rooms, Olivia said. I looked at Owen, not having any idea what she was talking about. Right, I'm looking forward to living together again. His answer left me in shock. When you said living together, who are you talking about? I asked, and Olivia started laughing. Of course, Peter and I, you and Owen. We haven't been able to see you guys much since Owen was transferred. Isn't it for the best if we move in with you guys? Then we won't be lonely anymore, Olivia said, like it was the obvious thing to do there. This was how we thought things were going to go from the beginning. Let's get a place in between our companies, Peter said, very confident in his answer. I could feel myself heating up. This is what hopelessness is like, but I still had to fight back. This is the first I'm hearing about this, though. But of course, that small of a resistance wouldn't change anything. I was going to talk things over with you, but it had already been decided on, so I thought I could just tell you later. We'll make sure the location is good for you as well, so don't worry about anything, Owen said, trying to convince me. Of course, that's not good enough, though. But weren't we saving up so that we could buy a house for just the two of us? I asked. Yeah, we were talking about that, but when I told Mom, she said they'll pay. Isn't that nice of them? You should say thanks to her as well, Owen replied. This wasn't really something to be thankful for. I didn't feel like I was a part of the family here. Since we got married, I felt like the third wheel. On top of everything else, leaving me out of such an important conversation was unthinkable. I didn't want to live with Owen's parents. I clearly told them that. I never thought we were going to live together, and we never talked about this before getting married either. I don't really like that you guys decided all of this without me either. With that, Owen's parents started to criticize me. Are you saying you don't want us to be there? Isn't that a little rude? We're paying everything. You shouldn't have anything to complain about, she said. But even if they pay, it doesn't make me want to live with them. I wanted to tell them that clearly. But they're making things hard for me right now. I'm honestly so shocked that Owen thinks this is all normal that I'm having trouble saying anything. Well, it's not like anyone was listening to my opinion anyways. Even still, if things keep going like this, we'll all live together. I've got to do something to stop this from happening. And nobody will help me. So I made a plan on my own. Without telling them, I called my mom over to where we were going to stay. I told her about everything that happened and that I wanted her to help me. I've talked with her before about Owen's quirks, so she told me she'd be over to help me right away. While Owen and his parents were talking with me, I waited for my mom to come. I won't get anywhere with them alone, so I decided on calling her in. Anyways, if someone didn't help me now, things were going to go their way forever, it seemed. That was more scary than anything else. We got to the hotel before her, so we checked in. Soon after, my mom arrived as well. They were a bit surprised to see her, but they welcomed her in. I heard Owen's parents were coming along, so I decided to come as well. She greeted them with a smile, and I suddenly felt better. Owen's family said, Of course, you're welcome, welcoming her with strange smiles. After that, we went out to go see some tourist spots, and on the way, my mom brought up the main issue. I heard from Nicola that everyone will be moving in together now. I'm happy we'll all be able to live together again, too. Owen and his parents hearing that had shocked expressions on their faces. You'll be moving in as well? Olivia asked my mom. That's right. Naturally, I want to spend some time with my child as well. Me and my husband will help pay as well, so don't worry about anything, she responded. I don't know what she had planned either, so I stayed quiet and let things play out. Olivia made a really uncomfortable face. But all of us together might be a bit much. It could make people uncomfortable, and said that. My mom answered with a smile. But I think it'd make Nicola more comfortable this way. We're used to it. But we don't want Nicola to be uncomfortable in her own home. Also, domestic violence is pretty common, right? I don't think that it'll happen to her, but I'm her mother. I want to make sure she's safe. She raised her voice when she said that a bit, seemingly worried. I think she was angry I was being left out of everything. That must be why she's stirring things up like this. I was a bit glad she said it. Owen and his family didn't feel the same way, though. Around then, we got to the tourist attractions. We got off the bus and Owen called out to me. Nicola, what's going on here? Your parents are really going to move in with us? Hearing this, yeah, seems like it's not a problem, right? They'll help pay, and your parents are also moving in, is how I replied. Owen tried to object with a pale face. But that seems a little uncomfortable for me. It's a lot harder to relax that way. Owen didn't seem to see the contradiction here. You said now that we're married, we're family now. That means my parents are your family as well. You were going to do the same to me. Why is it wrong if I do it? Isn't that a bit rude? I said with a smile. Owen was thinking with a troubled look on his face. But I wasn't finished yet. I had my mom bring me the divorce papers and I showed them to Owen. I was thinking, I don't want things to continue like this. I was starting to think about divorce. I mean, it seems like I'll just become a slave to your family. Nobody listens to me and I've just got to go along with whatever you all decide. We don't treat you like a slave. I know we haven't been listening to you, but... Owen was starting to realize what he'd been doing. Then it's already too late, right? If things don't change. Then before we continue the talk about everyone moving in, our marriage might end, I said, pressuring him further. Surprisingly, Owen broke. Okay, I understand. If you'll divorce me if things go like this, I'll get my parents to back off. Just please, don't divorce me, he said, surrendering. After that, he said he had something to talk about. Told his parents they no longer were moving in, and started to listen to what I said more. Owen's parents weren't taking his sudden change to heart well. Wait a minute. What are you talking about so suddenly? Weren't you agreeing with us on everything until now? Olivia seemed like she was going to try to convince him again, but... Because of that, I was going to lose my wife. Mom and Dad, you're both very important to me, but Nicole is more important to me, Owen said, validating me. Olivia and Peter looked disappointed. Mom, on the other hand, accepted the situation. She was my savior. After that, we decided to split up for now. Owen's parents, shocked at their son's opposition, went home. When we got back to the hotel, their luggage was gone. And with that, my mom left to go home as well. Get along now, she said, and Owen greeted her back. I wasn't sure how things would be at first, but we had a nice time the rest of the trip. We made some nice memories together and had a very nice honeymoon. Owen, who only listened to his parents before, had chose me over his parents for the first time. For now, I decided I'd trust him one more time. If what he said on our trip was nothing more than empty words, then I won't be so forgiving next time. If it happens again, then our married life will be a lot shorter than expected. In order for things to not end up that way, I'm also working on expressing my feelings more honestly to him. There's no talks about parents moving in together anymore, and Owen hasn't talked to them since. Similarly, they haven't contacted him either, so it seems like they're taking a break for now. This little break feels good for me as well. I think it's best if we take things slowly for now. But everything was taken care of, so I'm relieved things are the way they are. I want to say I'm really sorry for not listening to you until now. After we got home from the trip, Owen apologized to me. I'm glad he's starting to change his way of thinking. He was never like this before, and he hasn't really ever apologized to me before either. So I'm looking forward to seeing how else he'll change from now on.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. "Meetings should be for employees only." Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, what's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. "Probably Sam." Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. "Do you know how much revenue we get from that company?" "We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs. Gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized." Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. "All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike. What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.